So I wasn't even going to do a video today. It's going to take me a break and move on, but I decided that last night, what happens last night? I was watching a video of some high school kids debating out in a parking lot, and it got me to thinking that the debate was over being called an African American. There's a black guy. He didn't want to be called African American. He wanted to just be called American. And I'm 1,000% behind his thought pattern. But the kids that were there, the other black kids, and it was kind of funny because there were 5 other black kids there and a whole bunch of whites, and all the whites were making fun of the black kid that didn't want to be called African American. I mean, it was very odd. It was an odd situation, and it got me thinking, like, why do these kids think the way they think? Like, at what point in time did African American become a thing? Like, when did they decide this? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And here's why I say it doesn't make a lot of sense. I am white. A lot of other people in this country are white. The vast majority of us have no idea where we came from. Like, I don't know where, and it's really kind of strange when you say, where did you come from? Because unless you just came from there, it's kind of irrelevant and pointless to have a conversation about, because maybe during the time of, hell, when the United States got started, maybe my family came from Europe. Maybe they came from Ireland. I don't know where the hell they came from. But then they came over here and maybe they married an Indian. And so now when you ask their kids where they came from, where did they come from? Because you got one dad that's from Ireland and the mom is from here as an Indian. And then that child grows up and he marries an African woman, and then asks his kids where he came from and where did they come from. I mean, it's like it's this moronic plague of thoughts to try to say that I came from anywhere. Like, what difference does any of that make? The thing that's important is, who are you now? What kind of person are you, and what is it that you believe? Where you came from is just a completely ignorant thought pattern to get into. It doesn't make any sense. So then I started researching, like, well, okay, given the fact that nobody really knows where they came from, because all of us have got some kind of mix in our bloodline. I mean, there's very few people that are just pure whatever. So where did this whole African American thing come from? Because black people didn't wake up one day and say, oh, I think I'm going to be called African American instead of American. I'm more proud of Africa than I am of America. Africa, the country that enslaved me and brought not me, not you, because you don't even know what it's like to be a slave, but they enslaved someone in my past and brought them to America as a slave. The Africans enslaved these people and brought them over here as slaves. Americans didn't go over there and get them. Africa did this to them. And so after researching a little bit, I found out that, and it's perfect, this is the perfect human being to actually do this, is that back in the 70s, Jesse Jackson is the one that coined the phrase African America, or American, because he wanted all the blacks to be united, even though they're not all from the same place. They're not all from the same place in Africa. And in today's world, they're not from anywhere. The black people living today some of them could maybe trace their pure roots back to Africa, but there's a chance that they've got other bloodlines in them now, and they're not even as much African as they think they are, but they are black. So the whole African thing is kind of crazy, but Jesse Jackson did this. And Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all the rest of them are absolutely the biggest racists and bigots on the planet Earth. Like literally, they are the biggest racist on planet Earth, and not in the way that you think. So you may say, well, they're racist because they hate white people, and yes, that's true. They hate all white people, but they're racist also and bigots because they actually are rich. They're very, very wealthy men. And ask yourself, how did they get so rich? They've never had a job. Like they've never worked for Coca-Cola or for Microsoft, or they've never worked for any of these companies. What they have done is they have used the black community, who idolizes these men for some reason. They've used them to make money. So as an example, they see something happen and they think, oh, well, that's not fair. They're being discriminated against because they're black. So they would go in and milk these companies for millions of dollars and do all this crazy shit, and they run off with all the money. And then the people that actually had the problem, they don't do shit for them. Like when has Jesse Jackson gone in and fixed education? I mean, if I was a black guy and I had money, the number one thing that I would be trying to fix right now is education in the black community. In fact, education, period. I think the entire education system is crazy. But education, period. But at the very least in the black community, where has he donated all this money back into the black community to help anybody? What specifically has he done? I'm not, you go look it up and see what specific things has Jesse Jackson done to help the black community, and why is he so rich? If he really cared about the black community, he ought to be living with the black community, and he ought to be, giving all his money away so that he can help other people. Why are these people so wealthy? Why do they fly around on Learjets and multi-million-dollar airplanes and live like kings? I don't get it. So you've taken a guy that is a pure racist. You've allowed him to coin this phrase because at the time, no black person gave a shit what they all they cared about was their life. They wanted to improve their life. You got, I've had my friend out in California bring up the Jim Crow Act. Go look at who actually passed that law. Who did that? It was the Democrats. But y'all support them. You actually think the Democrats are there to help you. All they've done is trick you into thinking that they're trying to help you, and the whole time they're kicking your feet out from under you. So none of this stuff makes any sense. We're all Americans, and your past has nothing to do with your present. If you live in the past, you will never have a present. Because your past, it can't be changed. You can't change your past. So if you spend your whole life trying to change your past, you're not going to have a life to live in the present. You're going to be fighting yourself the rest of your life because you things that your parents did or that your great-great-great-granddaddy did, you have nothing. They didn't even know who you were. They didn't do that to curse you for the rest of your life, and you being cursed for the rest of your life is ignorant. You're judged on what you do today. You're judged on the things you think today. You are an American today. You're not an African American. Africa doesn't give a shit about you. And if you care so much about Africa that you want to put that in front of your designation of being an American, then ask any conservative and they'll buy you a ticket to go to Africa and live. But you won't do that because deep down inside you know that America is the best country in the entire world for black people to live. You all like to say, look at all the celebrities. Oh, if Trump wins, we're going to move. We're leaving the country. Why didn't they? Why didn't a single person leave this country when Trump won? Why? I don't understand. If America is so bad and everybody hates Trump so much that you want to leave America so that to get away from him and to get away from America and all the terrible things that go on over here, why are you still here? Because we don't want you here. We don't want people that are trying to tear the country apart. We want to live in peace and we want to live together. I have no desire whatsoever to live separated from all the black people. I don't. But everybody's got to wake up to what's going on around them and realize that we're all being taken advantage of. It's one of my biggest thing separate from education is the news media. I think we seriously need to do something about the news media. And I know they've got, rights and all that kind of stuff, but there's got to be a limit to their propaganda and their complete and utter disrespect for the truth. But that's a whole nother video. It's a whole nother conversation. But the point is that you are who you are because that's who you are today. You're not judged on who you were in the past, and you thinking that you're from Africa is probably the most naive thought that you've ever had in your whole life. The only reason you believe that is because a teacher or someone above you told you that that's what you should believe, and you've been brainwashed into thinking that's true. We're all Americans. Africa has zero to do with where we are today. We've had a huge past. We've had, slavery. We've had Africans enslaving their own people and putting them on ships and bringing them over here to sell as slaves so that they could make money and go back and have more money. Again, had nothing to do with anything. It's just what happened in the past. But we can't change any of that. It happened. Learn from it and try not to repeat it. That's all you can do, is learn from it, don't repeat. We can't sit here and harp on things that happened 200 years ago or even 50 years ago. 50 years ago, they were fighting in the streets, and white people were treating black people so badly that it's embarrassing to even think about. And maybe even some of my family was doing that. I don't know. I mean, I don't think so, but I don't know. Maybe some people in my family were complete and utter racist. But what does that got to do with me? I'm not. So judging me on things that happened 50 years ago is no different than judging you because of something that happened 200 years ago. There is no answer in history other than to try not to repeat it. You have to move on from today. So wake up, be an American, and question everything that you're told. Don't believe anything that you're told just because it was given to you from a person in power, a college professor, a high school teacher, your parents. Don't listen to any of this stuff. Go research it and see what actually happened, and then you make your decision as to whether it's good or bad. Don't let somebody else tell you what's good and bad.